Palworld has taken the world by storm. Let's take a look at exactly what the game is, and why it's a miracle that it actually got released. Palworld's an open-world survival game developed by Pocket Pair. Players collect resources, craft tools, and build bases, the normal survival game type stuff. What really sets the game apart are the pals that the player can catch. If you look really close, you might notice that they look very similar to a certain other game that I know. The clear inspiration from Pokemon led many players to dismiss the game as just Pokemon with guns. But once it was released, it became apparent that the game draws inspiration from tons of different games. From Breath of the Wild to Minecraft, it's really an amalgamation of some of the most popular games of the past couple years. And although the monster designs are reminiscent of Pokemon, the tone and method of catching the monsters is completely opposite. It puts an emphasis on exploiting the monsters so you can enslave them or arm them to defend your base, or, butcher them for their meat. Gamers don't seem to really mind the clear influence from the other games, as it's completely exploded since its release, selling over 8 million copies within 10 days, which for such a small developer is absurd, especially one who stated that the game releasing was a miracle. Out of all the games I've researched for the channel, Palworld's development is by far the craziest I've ever seen. A mix of veterans, young up-and-comers, and a key animation employee picked up from a convenience store helped to create what could be one of the most popular games of 2024. The road to Palworld's success would not be an easy one. Many members of the team didn't know the key skills necessary for developing the game, and the game's creator described other processes like file management as a mess and slowed the project greatly. The game would be delayed even more once an experienced developer showed interest in the project. It was originally being developed in Unity and was switched to Unreal Engine because that's all he'd ever worked with before, meaning they had to essentially rebuild everything that they had done from the ground up. In the end, the planned 4-man team exploded into a team of 40, leaving the developing budget in shambles. Or it would have been had they had a budget. When asked about the budget, the CEO stated, "The budget limit is initially until the balance in your bank account reaches zero. When it reaches zero, you can borrow money." In that case, do you need to manage your budget? No, all you have to do is borrow money or release money just before the company goes bankrupt and your account balance drops to zero. So with their full team and a virtually limitless budget, it seemed like nothing could stop them. But there was one more piece of the puzzle missing, and they were about to find it in the last place you'd expect. The CEO of the company was browsing Twitter when he stumbled upon an anonymous account full of gun animations. He reached out to him and learned he was a convenience store worker with a middle school level education. He had taught himself how to animate solely through YouTube tutorials and just did it as a side hobby. Pocket Pair loved their work so much, they offered them a full-time job and moved them to Tokyo to do gun animations for the game. Now with the game development Avengers assembled, the team would go on to finish the game for an open access release on January 18th, 2024. But along with the incredible success came their fair share of controversy. See, it's no secret that Palworld was heavily influenced by other games. The question is, where's the cutoff between inspiration and plagiarism? Take one look at the cesspool people call Twitter, and you'll undoubtedly see threads upon threads of people comparing Pokemon and PAL designs. Now, I agree that some of the PAL designs look almost identical to Pokemon, but we have to remember that a lot of Pokemon are based off of real-life creatures. In reality, there's only so many ways to rework these animals, and there's bound to be some overlap, solely on the grounds of their common inspiration. There's been speculation of Palworld devs copying Pokemon models one-to-one, and then just revising those, which would be a huge issue, right? There isn't any concrete evidence of this, however, and if Nintendo saw they were doing this, they would have already sued them and be pushing for the death sentence. Others have accused the game of using generative AI and asset flipping to create the game. These, again, are baseless claims for the most part. Critics point to one of Pocket Pair's earlier games, AI Art Imposter, which uses generative AI as a core mechanic, as proof that they'd be willing to use AI in the development process, along with a CEO that has been very openly pro-AI. I agree that if they were using these means to produce the game, it would be a net negative for the gaming industry. Jobs would be lost, and the quality of the games would just plummet. But there hasn't been any proof besides the company's past projects to suggest that this is what's happening, and that holds true for the asset flipping claim as well. all games flip assets, but critics are concerned that nearly all the assets were purchased, and they point to the company's latest game, Craftopia, as evidence. As Pocket Pair claimed, it was built almost entirely with off-the-shelf assets. About a week after Palworld's release, Nintendo put out a statement in where they stated, "We've received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon franchise." So, at this time, it looks like Nintendo is still reviewing whether or not Palworld has done anything worth building a case around. If anything, I think this could be good for the Pokemon franchise. Iron sharpens iron, so hopefully this is the push they need to start putting effort into that franchise again and start innovating like they used to. But I want to know what you guys think. Is Palworld a good thing for gaming? And if you've played it, what do you guys think of the game so far? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments, but that's about all I got for you guys. Take care.